Welcome to another edition of the Bhandwagon podcast. And today is, I get excited sometimes, and and sometimes the fanboy in me really comes out, and I make no apologies for that. But I've got a guest today who, when it's all said and done, is one of the pantheons of UK Punjabi music, and is just so talented and is just unbelievable. So without further ado, Shin DCS, welcome to the Bhandwagon podcast.
Thank you very much, Ricky. It's a pleasure to be here, mate.
Oh, yes, finally got it done. Just trying to settle on dates. It was a bit crazy, but I had to get you in because I've done a few with like Butta Jagpal Sadara. And
okay.
You've always been a kind of common denominator in a lot of those conversations that come out. So it was only right to kind of get you to kind of complete some of their stories. That was
okay.
Just give the background onto it.
Okay.
So in terms of like I was listening to quite a lot of your interviews on online, and there's always this theme that you're actually getting younger and younger. And the more interviews you look at, like, how do you keep up appearances, basically?
Well, I don't think I'm getting younger, as you can see, right? It's I've got the silver fox at the moment. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of in at the moment, So everybody during lockdown, right? There was a lot of like silver hair came into fashion, came into vogue again, right?
Yeah.
But just before lockdown, and then during lockdown, there were no shows on. There was nothing happening, so I was just around the house all the time. So and I've been dyeing my hair like since I was in my late 20s and stuff.
Well, I've got a note on here about the blonde hair. So
right. Yeah. Well, yeah, bleaching and blonding, and dyeing and whatever. And so during lockdown, I thought, I'm going to stop doing all this dyeing business, because I let it grow out for a while, and then I thought, well, I don't look that bad, And the family were saying, well, you should just go like that now, let it be natural. So
going all gracefully.
Yeah, going all gracefully, and everybody's accepted it. And you know what? Everybody knows I'm not a spring chicken.
Yeah.
I've been in the industry for nearly 40 years now. So I thought I'd just let it go. And everybody tells me it looks good, so I believe what people are saying to me. But I mean, about looking young all the time. I'm just a health fanatic, really. A keep fit fanatic. I watch what I eat, basically because I'm a singer. I have to watch what I eat, otherwise it kind of upsets my voice a lot. I'm quite fragile. My voice is quite fragile in that respect, which has turned out to be a good thing because I eat healthy. I get down the gym. And it's helped me to kind of stay slim and stay young looking as well. Yeah.
Is that something that you find, the dedication to the art, where you looked at kind of mind, body, and soul and connecting it together? I mean, it's not no coincidence that you've got those plaques behind you. Your catalog of work, the relationships that you got with people, your fans, and everybody. You can see that in there. Like like your vocals now sound unbelievable. Like you can see when you hear certain artists is that they're getting older and older, they're losing that. But I listened to Mungal on Facebook Live when he does some of his stuff on there, and like he ain't missing a trick in it. And like you're exactly the same way. It just you're sounding exactly like the tape from back in the day.
Back in the day. Yeah, well, yeah. I think it is the dedication to the art, and my voice has always been my priority in my whole life since I went full time into music, which was like late 80s, early 90s. And from that point on, I made a promise to myself that I was going to look after myself, look after my voice, because like we were gigging crazy at that time, like doing 3 or 4 gigs a week, 5 gigs a week sometimes, and we'd be out on the road all the time, and you can't sustain that kind of lifestyle unless you're looking after yourself.
Yeah,
you can't abuse yourself. You can't be eating out on the road all the time. And drinking what you feel like, and smoking and doing what, you can't do that. You can't lead that kind of a lifestyle if you want longevity as a singer. And it's not easy being out on the road. Life is quite tough. So you've got to be quite resilient, really, especially the amount that we've been out on the road, traveling in the van, traveling in all hours of the morning, coming back from gigs like at 6 o'clock in the morning. Everyone's going to work, and we're turning up, coming back from a gig, you know, and going to sleep and stuff, and then doing it again the next day. So, you know, it's been a crazy lifestyle, but you know, you can only sustain it if you're very dedicated to looking after yourself and you're very dedicated to your art.
So, you know, like you mentioned kind of like three, like I was born in 82, I've just turned 40. And so like you've kind of like, I'm not saying it in a way that of your age kind of, but you've been singing longer than I've been born, you know what I mean? And the way that you, yeah, just to make you feel better, but just in terms of like how the reinvention of yourself, like you've got different images, and I think that's very rare. You'll see an artist now having the same appearance, the same way that they've been, and they had the manner, it hasn't changed at all. Do you reckon? Did you, because you were professional in that way? Did you see that as when you first got into breaking into music, to have that longevity, that this is something that you needed to do, to look at a mainstream like George Michael and Michael Jackson and all these people had different stages of their career?
Yeah, you know, with every album that DCS recorded, we always used to like tweak our image, tweak the way we're looking, to a certain extent, change the hairstyle or change the way we're dressed, to change the style sense at that time. You know, I felt that is what I feel that is very important for artists, to kind of try and stay relevant. Not only has our music changed over the years, but our look has also changed. We've grown up, we're getting older, you know, and like you say, you know, you have to embrace it. If you embrace it and you're comfortable within yourself, then people will be comfortable looking at you. You know, people accept it, and people like the way that you look. You know, and the amount of compliments I get now, and the amount of people that are telling me that I still look very young and still, you know, is great. You know, and touch wood, you know, I count my lucky stars. You know that I've got good genes, which do help. You know, to a certain extent, to for me to look young and present myself on stage and still be pretty, you know, be able to be vibrant with the crowd.
I want to test your memory at this point. It's like you were one of the first bands that I ever remember. And I remember seeing you twice in 2 weeks. One, it was at the Hen and Chickens in Albury.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. And then the other ones was, so that's now like a buffet place now. It
yeah, right.
Not the wedding. Yeah, it was a wedding there.
Yeah, we used to do weddings there back in the day, yeah.
And then the second one was Kings in Hamsworth Wood.
Hampstead Road.
Hampstead Road, that's it. And I remember it. I remember seeing you there, and it was also, there could have been a World Cup or something going on at the same time, because I remember half of the blokes were outside listening to radio what the score was.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
But yeah, that was one. So I always have this. I have it with a few bands, because I'm born in Handsworth, lived in Handsworth, so I was always a Bhangra head in terms of getting it.
Right.
That's enough about me as a kid. But what was a young Shin like?
Young Shin. I was always very musical. Right. I remember when I was very young, probably about 6, 7. My dad was like a big Bollywood film buff, right? Because it was just mainly Bollywood films back in the day. I'm going back to like the 60s now, right? When I was growing up, and every weekend we'd go down the cinema, and there'd be like 2 films on for 1 ticket, like, and my cousins would be there, and without fail, every weekend we'd congregate at some cinema or another in Birmingham. There were about 4 or 5 cinemas that everybody used to go to, and we'd go there and we'd watch films. And I grew up listening to these film songs and watching these films and seeing these massive stars from the 60s and 70s, and my dad used to buy all the records and the spool tapes back in the day, and all the music would be playing in our house all the time. And I remember I used to hum along to these songs that my dad would be playing, and I got to learn how to speak Hindi and Punjabi from singing those songs. And I learned my musical craft, how to sing, by singing along with these songs that were in these films that were so popular, super hit tracks from back in the day. And the one singer I picked up on was Muhammad Rafi, because in the 60s, like, he was massive. And I found, like, when I was 6 or 7, right, that I could hum a whole song, including the whole music pieces, and I retained all the lyrics as well. Wow. You know, and I couldn't read or write Hindi or Punjabi, but I remembered the whole song, all the music pieces, all the beats, and all the rhythm and everything. And I surprised myself. I thought, wow, this is quite odd. And I remember when I did this, we'd spent a day in Blackpool, right? It was winter. We went to see the Blackpool illuminations. We used to go every other year or something with my dad. The whole family used to go. And on the way back at night, we were all asleep in the back of the van. And I was like trying to go to sleep. And I just started humming a song in my mind. And I can't remember which song it was now, but I remember distinctly that I could remember it from beginning to end, completely, with all the music and all the lyrics and all the singing. And I surprised myself, bloody hell, I know this song. And then that way I started to realize that I'm musically inclined. And then I started messing around with more stuff. Then I started learning harmonium with a friend of mine who used to go down the local Gurdwara, Ramgarhia Gurdwara in Hockley in Birmingham. There used to be a teacher there, Gurdiyal Singh Rasia, used to teach rags and stuff. So I started going with my mate while I was at school, and borrowed my mate's Vajja for a couple of weeks and ended up keeping it for a couple of years, just doing rags and practicing my scales and stuff. And then I started working out songs and stuff. And I realized that, you know, I've got a knack for this. I just started singing from there, and one thing just led to another and led to another. And before you know it.
So like, obviously, that might not be in a sort of common pathway at that time. And then, you know, when it started to become a little bit more serious, how was that discussion with the family? Were they kind of like, they've seen the talent for so long, they were like encouraging it? Or was it like, you know, go and do something else?
No, you know what it was? They'd encourage it, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm at a party or something, somebody's wedding or a party somewhere, they say, oh, Shindia utke ga. It was that kind of thing, right? And then you get up and, you know, I was dying to get up anyway, you know, and sing. And then I'd get up and sing a couple of Punjabi songs, sing a couple of Bollywood songs, you know, and you know, and that's great. I'd love it. I'd get my party piece done, right? Or I'd go and gate crash some like college party or something, some Asian night or somewhere going on somewhere. I'd just go along with my mate who used to play tabla back in the day and gate crash and just get a chance to get on stage, right? But then when I told my family that I was serious about this and I wanted to do this, right? Because we were involved in the rag trade, right? We had a family business going on. So everybody needed to be involved in the family business. And when I said, I want to become a singer, I don't want to do this rag trade business anymore, right? That's when the shit that I started, right? When I started getting told off by my dad and stuff, and, you know, getting aggro for going out and going to these parties and going, you know, singing here and there and all that kind of business. And then my dad sat me down and he said, look, son, if you want to do this, right, you're going to have to do it on your own. We are not going to help you, right? And I just got married about a year before that. Mm. And he said, if you want to do it, you're going to have to leave the house. Go and do it on your own, right? We're not going to help you. You sort yourself out, get a place on rent or whatever. You go out and you do it, right? And you prove to us that you can do it. And you, if you can do it, you'll value, you know, and you make it, you'll value what you've gained, you know. And I thought it was quite harsh at the time, but later on, I kind of respected my dad for that, because he made me earn what I did, you know. And if I had had their support, perhaps I might not have worked that hard for it, you know, because I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
But when I realized that, okay, I'm out on the street now, you know, and I've got a wife and I've got a kid on the way, so I've got to get my head down and I've got to make this work. I've got to make this happen. So I worked hard, you know, and met up with a couple of guys, Danny and Charlie with the D and the C from DCS.
Yeah.
And, you know, we started making demo tapes and stuff. And we managed to get a record deal with the EMI Gramophone Company of India. We made loads of demo tapes, took them down to their offices, and they liked what we were doing and they gave us a record deal and we recorded our first album.
So there's a couple of bits I want to kind of, you know, what you've said, especially around, you know, with the young kids that you see now, is like giving music is so disposable in terms of like, it's just flooding the market, it's so saturated. But as a young person in general, like I'm guilty. I've got 2 kids, and you know, they say something, I end up just giving it them anyway, right?
Yeah.
But there is a value in the struggle, isn't there? That, you know, when you and do you feel that's being lacked society-wise, on a general bit, but especially in the art, in the arts at this moment, where everything's just been kind of just given on a plate?
Yeah, you know what I think is everything is too easily accessible for the generation now. Like music applications and everything. You know, it's all available on one tablet, on one computer, and kids and you can easily get into it and start making music. I mean, my grandson who's 6, he makes music on a tablet, you know, and it's so easy the way they've got programs.
Mm-hmm.
He can make a beat and then play some notes on it. You know, whether it makes any sense or not is a different matter, but he can do it and he can get into it if he wants to. You know, back in the day we didn't have all that. If you wanted to learn the craft, you had to pick up an actual keyboard and play it yourself. You couldn't just, you know, program it through your notes, and you had to learn to play the keyboard. You had to learn to play the guitar. You can't get samples. You know, you had to learn it. And if you wanted to sing, there was no auto tuners or anything like that back in the day. You had to learn how to sing in beat, in rhythm, and in tune. You know, and you had to put the time in to be able to do that. Now, with all the gadgetry and everything, things are a lot easier and a lot more accessible. People don't need to. You don't have to be the best singer in the world to be able to make a good recording. As long as you can sing half decent, the engineer in the studio can do most of the 40 to 50% of the work in making you sound good. He can bring you into, as you know, he can bring you into tune. He can bring you into beat. He can put loads of effects on your voice, make you sound fantastic. You know, and you'll sound brilliant, you know. So
I think that's one thing that's come through when doing these podcasts, when you're speaking to artists, where they say the value of having a good sound engineer is immense, because they could give you that 20-35% extra that isn't necessarily there the way that they do it. But also at the same time, using the same engineer, albums started to sound a little bit the same as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm gonna risk something here. Was there another band just before DCS that you were part of, like a Hindi band or Bollywood band?
No, what it was when DCS started making music, right?
Yeah.
When we formed DCS, actually, right?
Yeah.
We were doing Bollywood stuff. We were doing like disco music, right? Because at that time in the early 80s, disco music was really popular in the UK, Bollywood disco music, right? Because it was like the Nazir Hassan time, the Kurbani film. Kurbani was a film which had that track in it, Aap Jaisa Koi Meri Zindagi Mein Baat Ban Jaye, Tung 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 Tung, Baat Ban Jaye. All that kind of stuff was going on, right? And it was massive. And so our first album was like a pop album, making like disco, but we had like disco, rock, reggae, a lot of different influences that were, you know, that we had in our music, that we were brought up with in this country. So it wasn't just a pure all-night disco album. So that album was released. It did pretty well in India, actually, for us. And that's when I had my blonde hair. And the BBC Asian network called Nae Zindagi Nae Jeevan back in the day at that time. And they picked up on this album and they had us on TV quite often. We were on TV. We recorded a whole live session for them. So they'd put it on every other Sunday or something, you know. So we started getting popular because of that. And then there was a film that was being produced in Birmingham, a Bollywood film called Cricketer. And we got the opportunity to do the soundtrack to that movie, right? It was starring Dipti Naval and Mark Zuber, who was they were big stars at that time in Bollywood. And we got an opportunity to make the music for that film. And that kind of did well for us as well. You know, people picked it up here. It went on TV a lot. Did all right in India. The soundtrack did really well for us, you know. So we made a lot of headway like that, right? But how we came into Bhangra music, right? Let me tell you how that happened.
Yeah.
Our record company was based in Southall, right? And we went down to their offices, EMI, by the way, EMI Gramophone Company of India. They had their section in Southall. And we went down to their offices. It was a Friday night, I remember, right? And we had the meeting with them and everything. And then we were going to drive back. It was about 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. And they said, you're going to head back to Birmingham now. And we said, yeah, we're going to head back to Birmingham. They said, well, do you want to come and see a show? Excuse me. And we said, yeah, we'll come and watch. What's the show? And they said, there's a Bhangra band that's going to play, a Bhangra band. Right, and they're playing at the Harrow Leisure Centre, which is just down the road. And it's a band called Alaap, they said, right? And I thought, yeah, I've heard of Alaap. They've got that they've got that song, pub, right? I said, yeah, let's go. So we went down there with the record company, right? And we walked into that room. It's a massive like leisure centre, and there's people. I could see that there was a live band set up on stage, right? There was just instruments on stage, and there's loads of people just standing around, you know, and having drinks and stuff, and there's some music playing in the background, and we're just chatting with them and stuff. And then all of a sudden, the lights go dim, and the musicians walk out onto stage, right? And they start up their instruments and stuff, and this one guy with a scarf, right, walks up to the main mic, right, and starts playing his tumbi, and they start their music, and the place went crazy. Everybody's on the dance floor and they're dancing away, and I'm looking, me, Danny, and Charlie, we're just looking at each other. What the hell is happened here? What just happened? You know what I mean? I'd never been to a Bhangra gig before. I'd never seen how it all works. So, and when we saw this happening, and people danced from start to finish, we stayed there till about midnight, you know, until the thing finished. And we watched the whole show, and from the beginning to the end, people did not stop dancing. It was crazy, and I thought, bloody hell, this is amazing. We got to do some of this stuff, right? And on the journey back home from London to Birmingham, that night we made a decision that we're going to record a Bhangra album, and we're going to start doing some Bhangra songs and stuff. So and then we recorded an album called Teri Song, which was our first Bhangra album, and then we never looked back since. You know, it was just a crazy journey. It was a crazy time. It was a crazy time. So yeah, Alaap was the band responsible and generally thing for making us making DCS do their first Bhangra album. Yeah, putting us on that track.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm always very kind of protective of like Midlands, and you know, I try not to give London bands any credit whatsoever. It's just what my hands with bias. But I mean, he's influenced. You always hear people talking about Alaap, especially, and the influence is crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, Alaap were a very tight band. You know, a very, very tight band. They had some of the best musicians in the industry.
Kazanchi,
Kazanchi, you know, and the keyboard players and people like Johnny Kelsey on the door. Johnny sings an amazing singer, you know, and the pucker musicians, and they were always well rehearsed with the, you know, and the songs would sound exactly like they sounded on the albums. And that's what I always liked about Alaap, you know, and they've influenced a lot of people on the scene, you know, to come forward. But when we came on the scene, we had our own sound, we had our own style, which was very different from what Alaap were doing, you know. We were more Western influenced with our sound.
So like for me as a novice, or you know, just look as a fan, you know, there's obviously yourself as a performer. There's a different energy in terms of how you perform and how you sound.
Yeah.
When you started to go into this recording situation, when you go in the studio, how were some of your first albums made? Was there kind of a distinct memory that you have? I mean, because they're late 80s of when they started to come out, you know what I mean? Like 1, 2, 3 Go is, you're looking at 1986, you know, towards that time where all these other bands are coming out that bit. Did you feel, one, like the peer pressure of some of the other bands, healthy competition? Because I think all the old school always said that they encouraged everyone having healthy competition. I slightly believe that and disbelieve that, but anyway. But when you were going into a studio environment, what was the pressure like? How did you work in that scenario?
Do you know what it was? Let me tell you something. Because we were gigging so much, right? Like we're doing like 80, 90, 100 shows a year, right? Which is virtually every weekend we're gigging. We were learning our craft all the time. Every weekend we're going on stage, we're performing, we're making people dance, right? And you start to realize, okay, people like to dance to this kind of a beat, they like this kind of a melody, and they're like bolian, or they're like this kind of a song, right? And you pick up on this kind of stuff, and you say, okay, we're developing, and in the rehearsal room we're developing our own style, like because we were quite a young band and all born in the UK. We had a lot of like UK influences anyway. Like we were using a lot of reggae in our music, a lot of rocky kind of riffs, rock music in our, and pop, a lot of pop synthy kind of sounds in our music as well. So we picked up all that influence while we were out on the road, right? And we found we were getting tight as a band, because in those days, when we'd go into a studio, everything would be recorded live. There was no sequencers, there was no samplers, there was no computers. It was like you're recording, they plug you into the tape, and what you play goes straight down onto the tape, and that's it. No second takes. If you do get something wrong, you stop, you start again from the beginning, and you go again. So that's how it used to be. And so we learned all our craft and learned our style and how to be tight on the road. And then we took that into this rehearsal room, right, and wrote new songs and made melodies, but on those kind of beats, using those kind of sounds that we knew were working for people. People like to dance to that kind of stuff. And then we kind of formulated it, went into the studio, recorded it, released it, and, people were loving it. But our groundbreaking album, and the album that changed the scene completely for us, for DCS, was 1, 2, 3, Go, which came out,
you know what I mean? That's the
1988. Because in that album we just pushed the boundaries completely with the styles that we were using, with the sounds we were using, with the kind of songs that we were singing. It just changed the game completely for us.
I think for a lot of people, what was some of your memory that of making that particular album?
A lot of late nights in the studio. The whole band would be down there, and we'd be, like I said, we'd be playing live. You'd get like the drums, the bass guitar, and the guitar. They'd record first, right, to get the backing track down, and I'd sing my guide vocals along with them, and Danny would play some keyboard pieces just to sort of kind of keep them in time, and we'd get those three things down first, and then Danny would come on top of that and play keyboard pads and keyboards pieces, and I'd play a few if it was one of my compositions and stuff, and then we'd do work on all the vocals and stuff, and then mixing and everything. It was like a big. I remember it took us a good 6 months to record that album.
Wow!
Because at that time we were all working as well. We'd finish work about 5, 6 in the evening. 7 o'clock, we're at the studio, and we'll work until about 2 o'clock in the morning. And then going home, doing the same again next day.
Where was that recorded? Do you know what studio?
It was. That studio never had a name. It was a studio. It was on Stratford Road in Birmingham, right? Stratford Road in Sparkhill in Birmingham, and it was upstairs on top of a load of shops. Downstairs, they used to have some bicycle shops, and it was a studio upstairs. And the guy who used to run it was a guy called Phil. I remember he was a bit of a hippie, long hair and stuff, right? He used to make great tea, though. I remember I used to love his tea. He used to make all these herbal brews that he used to have, hippied out kind of thing.
You don't know what herbal was in there. I think
and it's only a small place. And there's like 10 of us crammed in there all the time, and it was nice though. Great experience, great memories, a great laugh. We'd be joking and laughing and stuff, but it's such a tight place. And you would never think that we could get such a sound out of that studio and record such a massive album from a little studio like that, it was just amazing.
Because Buddha Jagpal was talking about how when he heard a Jarnak's album, and he goes, that influenced where he wanted to take Sufri to do another one of his albums, and say that was the particular sound that he'd wanted. I didn't know how conscious other bands were at that time, or were people thinking the same thing. But you've mentioned the key word there. The sound was such a unique thing. Was it a thing that you wanted to keep going back to that because it had a good vibe to it, or were you still kind of as a band more free spirit and said it didn't matter where we were at?
No, I think 1, 2, 3, Go kind of set precedent for our style.
Yeah.
And we always kind of revisited that album to kind of get inspiration from it again. Use or perhaps the style of melody, or the kinds of beats, or the kinds of sounds we were using on there. We still played with those sounds for a good few years after that. And then obviously you have to keep in mind what's going on in the industry anyway. And with the advent of our sound changed again quite drastically when Sufri Boys came on the scene. And Sufri's album, Bomb Tumbi, kind of flipped things again, and things started going quite Desi again, where they'd been quite poppy before that. Things started going Desi, and the subject matter of the songs kind of changed as well a little bit, getting very patriotic with the lyrical content of songs, and very, very Desi, and identifying with your roots again. So that kind of stuff started to drift into what we were doing, still keeping a very Western influence to it, but getting very Desi again, heavily amplified with dolls, though, that we started using dolls a lot in our show as well, the way we were performing, and also on the recordings as well. And Dumbi's a lot, obviously, you know, because that kind of Desi element started coming back into the music. And I think also with the advent of DJs like PMC and stuff, these kind of sounds like Dol and Dumbi, which he used a lot in his early albums, started to creep back into Bhangra music, which it was there very early, but then it kind of went and pop music came in. But around the early 90s to mid 90s, it started reverting back to the Desi stuff, you know, and it went hardcore from there on.
Like, just a couple of the albums and a couple of the songs that like stuck out was DCS OU1, where you had Coca in there, and then having with, I mean, doing it for me was like that was class in there, because you did, there's one song in there, was it Kangna Unplugged, that acoustic, because I think the acoustic vibe is something so unique to yourself. I think like just having an acoustic album of your own, it just is it's got to be done. It has to be done. You know what I mean? So, you know, was that a conscious decision to say like, I want, because that is, you're going against the grain there. Not that many people something from the mainstream that is coming in, and you do that.
Yeah, you know, well, that was like our mainstream influences that we've always had in our music. You know what it was? I distinctly remember how that track happened. We'd recorded Kangna, the other version. There's like a reggae version of it on the album anyway, right? And we were in the studio. We recorded this at a different studio. This was at Mick St. Clair's studio in Smethwick and Road. And we were in there, recorded a couple of albums there, and this was one of them. And I remember we were sitting in the studio, and me and Balla were in the live room, and he used to play guitar. And he was sitting on the box guitar, just strumming away. And he's strumming away and just playing some rhythms and stuff. And I just started singing this Kangna over it. And we realized this is sounding quite good. We were just messing around initially, right? This actually sounds quite good. Why don't we just lay it down and see if it works or not, right? And then the two of us, we just worked something out. Probably took us about half an hour. He worked out some quick chords and an intro and some pieces and stuff. And I worked out how I was going to sing it slowly. We just went into the studio. He sat in one corner. I sat in the other corner with the mic, and we just did it. Within an hour, the song was recorded, and it just sounded amazing. Everybody in the studio, all the lads that were there, they were gobsmacked. They said, "This is brilliant. This is fantastic. We're going to use this and keep it on the album." So we did it, and you know, it became one of the most popular songs on that album. And if probably my memory serves me correctly, that was probably one of the first unplugged Punjabi songs ever. No one had ever done it before that point. So it kind of set a precedent, and obviously a lot of people have done a lot of unplugged tracks since then. But that was one of the first original ones.
One that sticks out for me as well. And you know, so like, I don't class myself as a knowledgeable to know that, but I'm guessing you're fairly confident in that statement anyway, because you're looking back on it, there isn't that many that's in there. I just want to kind of like, in terms of like the band itself, then at that point, did it start taking a different direction? Because I'm like, it's one of the things that I've always, as a fan, in terms of like, where did this kind of the split, because everyone started to go their own kind of direction. As you kind of progressed the band forward, what was that like in terms of, was it difficult to keep everybody together, or then keeping everyone on track? Because like, as when you look at it, it's just, you know what DCS stands for, and it's DCS Shin, but like the origin story of it is like, I don't know where that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, you know, out of DC, D and C are no longer in the band anymore. They left many years ago, and I took over the band, and I started managing it, you know, and working with the lads and keeping everything together. And I've always kind of given my lads a lot of space in the band. You know, I don't kind of drive like, oh, we're going to do this and it has to be this way, or this has to be the way. No, it's never been like that with DCS, you know. And I'll let the lads have their space, and I'll let them, you know, everyone throws in their their ideas and stuff into the music when we're in the studios, you know. Even in the rehearsal room when we're working together, everyone throws in their own ideas. Pops, who's on the bass, I won't tell him what to do. He's the bass player, it's his job, and he'll work it out himself. He'll do the bass. Juggy, our drummer, he'll work out all the drum parts. It's his job, and he knows it. He loves it. He's a drummer, and he'll work that part out. If there's a little bit here or there we need to tweak or something, and someone says, "Oh, I think we could try it this way," we'll try it that way. You know, so it's all a big collaborative process when you're working in.
And
the
was
studio
that the same as when? Was that the same with like Danny and Charlie? We're in the band where everyone was contributing together.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It was the same then. It's always been that way. The process that we work with DCS is it's always been that way.
Yeah.
We always get the lads involved. The musicians are involved in making the songs because at the end of the day, they're the guys that are going to play on when we go out to do gigs. They'll be playing it, and that's why DCS kind of had a reputation of always sounding like we sounded on the album, because it's the same guys playing the stuff in the studio that then are going to play it on stage. So they know what they've done, and they know what sounds they've used, and they'll do exactly the same thing on stage, and we'll just reproduce the track live. And that's why we had a massive reputation for always sounding like we sounded on the albums.
Because it's definitely the team, and I just wanted to kind of just drill in on this a little bit more because of the team ethics in there. So like today, I'll give you an example. I was going through Punjabi Dance Nation, and I always remember it because that was a time when I was playing Dol for like with Budgeon.
Right.
Yeah. And so yeah. I've had him on the podcast. You can hear that one. Trust me, it was good. It was good. So and I always remember that the Dol on that whole album was just virtually impossible for me to play. I couldn't even get anywhere close to it.
Yeah.
And it was just on the Dol. And it was on the inlay, so I have to rank. This is the credit to Dips Bhamra, and I phoned him. I said, "It was that, wasn't it?" And he was like, "Yeah, it was," because like everyone, they knew that what you hear on the tape, and a week later you would see the same people performing. You just knew that these were the right one.
Yeah.
Over the years, and I'm jumping a little bit forward and then coming back. How did you kind of regulate to make sure everyone was like tight? Because towards the end of the scene changed in terms of more DJs coming in, the live band scene was slowing down, let's just put it in that way. But you were always one of the more active and busier bands. Yeah. Was it difficult then or did you see when you were leading the band to say, I need to start thinking of the next evolution of the band, or how is it working, or you need, if somebody, to spend that much time with a team, you're going to fall out with people anyway. How were you able, as a kind of a leader in the band, to settle those differences and bring those boundaries together?
Shall I be really frank with you?
Yeah.
In the band, no one's ever really had a big falling out. If people have ever left the band, it's because of their own circumstances, personal circumstances, rather than having a fallout from the band and walking away from it. It's never been like that. It's always been because something in their life has changed, or they've had some personal conflict within their own family, or something they've had to leave the band for that reason. But never over music or over anything in the band has any of the members left, or we've ever had a disagreement. Like I said, I've always given my guys this space, and DCS is a band. We've spent a lot of time in rehearsal rooms working as a band. We were the only band, and I can probably say this hand on heart, right? When we were doing like 100 gigs a year, we'd still be rehearsing 2 times a week. We'd do 4 gigs a week and still rehearse 2 times a week to make sure we were tight, and always working on new material, always tweaking stuff within the set to keep it fresh. We had to do that because we couldn't sound the same for 20 years and stay at number one. We have to keep tweaking stuff and keep changing it. And the only way we could do that was in the rehearsal rooms. And the lads all the time used to turn up to rehearsal 2 times a week, and we'd rehearse and get stuff worked out. And and that's how we stayed the tightest all the time.
So I want to kind of lead up the frame to possibly I argue that it's still one of the best UK albums of all time with Punjabi Dance Nation. One, because I bought it on CD about 3 times. And then, because the amount of tracks that you had on it, I think it was one of the first albums that I spent £10 on. CDs went up to £10. You know, where the fuck is this money coming from? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And it weren't like just six tracks and 3 of them were shit. These were like bangers, every single one of them.
Every single track was
So how did you come up? Go on, tell me. I just need to know. Just tell me anything.
You know, that album did become a bit of a textbook, and a lot of people took bits from that album and flavors from that album, and then they were replicating stuff, and we could hear it all around. That other people were copying what we had done in this song or what we'd done in there, and we could hear stuff. So that album was quite a game changer, quite an influencer. It influenced a lot of bands that were working in studios at the time, and there was a song we did on that album called DCS meets TDF, right? Which was with the Door Foundation, Johnny Kelsey, who came as a guest player on that album. And Jusla, who was our door player, he was part of TDF as well. He used to play with Johnny. He used to do Johnny's classes here in Birmingham. He used to run the TDF in Birmingham. Yeah. And we had an idea while we were recording that I want to use about the maximum amount of door players I can get into a studio on a track, right? Just to get that energy, right? To see how big we can sound, just make the sound massive, right? And we got the song recorded from. I got the song written from Devraj Jussel, a guy I worked really close with on most of my albums, and he wrote this beautiful song for me. And we made the melody, and then I spoke to Johnny. I spoke to Justin, I spoke to Johnny, and I said, "Look, man, I want to record this song. We need to get about 12 or 13 dollies into a studio and just bang this track out, right? Get it really tight, rehearse it, and bang it out." And when we recorded it, we had 16 door players in the studio, and they were banging it out, recording it, right? And it was just amazing. The sound in that studio, you couldn't stand in that studio. You know, they had to wear cans to drown out most of the sound because they were just so loud. And it was an amazing experience recording that album. Recording that song in particular, because it's not a short song. It's about a 10-minute track as well.
I know.
It goes on, you know what I mean? And there was lots of drop-ins, drop-outs.
See, I had Johnny Kelsey on the podcast, so we've gone through that song in particular. Yeah. Because I was a door blaster.
Yeah.
You know, we got John.
All right.
That was like the forbidden fruit in it. There was all this healthy competition, and they got a track with these. So every time it was being played, we were like, "Oh man," you know, because the delicates of what the TDF did on that was.
Oh yeah. That's what I was going to say. That became a bit of a textbook for door players. If a door player could play that song, right, TDF song, he was a competent door player. He was a good door player. You know,
anything on that album. Anything on that album
for door players. Yeah.
You know, it was like, because the door sounded different on that album as well. Because it was class. But even like other songs that he did, Beja Mere Kool and Jodi Mera is one of my favorite songs ever. Because I used to I was having driving lessons at that time a little bit, but I used to hear it in the porch. I used to like bathroom singing, and you're like, how did he get to there? You know, it's like, oh, unbelievable. You know, it was only one of the few CDs. Is that Another Fine Mess? 100% Proof. I used to just have on repeat constantly. I couldn't afford it. I was after it. But like when you make an album like that and it has such a monster hit, and I think it was the kind of also part of that tipping point of where music started going to more CDs and then going into piracy started kicking in more and more when the CDs were done. Did you, at every stage of these albums coming, you can see a momentum, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That pressure on yourself, did you, when you hit an album like that, it's successful at many different genres, at different age groups, because you've reworked some of your classics that you've done, you've put it all together, and you're hitting new fans, you've got older fans, you've got, you know, I had Polly Tank on a few episodes ago, and I remember Eat Rhythm, you guys being at Ajgal, and like my mum like entered the competition and got a signed T-shirt. I'm still trying to find that T-shirt that was sent there. But it was like every marketing wise, you see people evolving. In terms of pressure, how difficult was it to keep trying to better the album before? And then did you feel like after Punjabi Dance Nation that you reached that level again?
I think after Punjabi Dance Nation, the scene quite changed as well. After Punjabi Dance Nation, you had like a lot of the PA act started happening. So music changed, the style of music changed, the trend started to change. Samplers started coming in, computers started coming into recordings. So the whole style of the kind of recordings that we needed to make was changing. The band vibe was going down a little bit, and the boy bands like the B21s, those kind of acts were like coming onto the scene. The RDBs, and
garage kind of sound, basically, yeah.
Yeah, those kind of sounds were all coming in, you know. So the whole scene changed at that time as well. So, I mean, with the album we did after that, which was a lot, Punjabi Dance Nation carried us for about, I think, a good 9 to 10 years. We didn't record another album. We were just so busy because of Punjabi Dance Nation. And then when we finally got around to doing it, you know, we did Desi Culture Shock, which was a really, you know, popular album for us. But then I found like I was working with other artists a lot, so I did a collaboration with Juggy D on that album. I recorded with Jaspinder. Was it on that album? Jaspinder Narula as well. I did.
Did I?
But I had to do it. Rob ne Banai Jodiyan, with Jayashree from India. So I started working with getting guest artists in on the albums, and I did a couple of collaborations as well with people like Shindar, DJ Vix. So I was starting to work with other people as well.
You do like door blasters. You do door blasters as well with John, didn't it? Like I remember because I used to go to Rookery, which was opposite his studio. So I used to see like people going in, and I remember I had one of the posters with Sadara. John, and you're next to it wearing the whole outfit. In the middle.
Yeah, so I was working with them as well. Did a couple of tracks with them. So I started to like this kind of collaboration vibe, which was becoming quite popular during that era. You know, there was like singers collaborating all over the place. So it was a good feeling. You know, I really enjoyed, and because I knew most of these artists anyway, you know, that gave us a chance to kind of also work with those artists and see how they work, you know, and how they go about doing their job, and how they are in the studio, how they are creatively, how they work creatively. So, and bouncing off each other with ideas and stuff. So it was a really good time. And but the journey kind of changed. You know, the way we recorded, the way we made our songs, the whole process changed with the advent of sampling and studios coming in a big way, and computers especially.
Did you also kind of like, you also always had that strong affiliation with Bollywood music and that as well? Were you still getting drawn back to kind of some of those projects as well?
Yeah, I mean, I always like revisiting Bollywood, you know, because I have such a big passion for it, you know, and Mohammed Rafi is my idol, you know. And we did an album in the early 2000s called Honge Na Juda, which was like a Bollywood pop album again, you know, like R&B hip hop album. I worked with a guy called Hunters, who recorded half the album, and DCS did the other half. And that was a great experience, you know. It's brilliant. I loved doing that album. We really enjoyed recording it, the whole process, different style of singing, different genre of music, you know, and it was a really good experience, you know. And working with Hunters was amazing as well, you know. He's such a talented guy, such a good producer, such a fantastic beat maker. So yeah, you know, I'm always kind of revisiting Bollywood in that respect.
So we got an impression of what a young Shin was like that. But a Shin 20 years ago in the 2000s, where the scenes are changing and you're seeing all the new talent, do you kind of distinctly remember what it was like seeing this? Or was it, because if you speak to a producer now, you got two schools of thought. One is like, oh, these kids are just using music samples and botching it all together. And the other one is where the art, where they've learned the whole kind of the mastery. Oh, forget it. You know, they're good at the tabla. Yeah, just put it. Yeah, they mastered the tabla, right? They mastered the musical sound.
Yeah.
As a vocalist, were you noticing the same thing where people hadn't learned through rags or done things more and more? You'd get the odd singer who hadn't learned that, right? But were you looking at the new talent coming through? Where is the new talent, or was it like these guys are shit? Well, not enough of it, but yeah.
Well, I obviously realised that people aren't learning their craft, right? Because there weren't that many good singers around. There was no one emerging, and even music producers didn't really know their craft properly. You know, they couldn't. Some of them couldn't even play a keyboard properly. They're using the engineers in the studios to play their music for them, or they're using programs, samples and stuff. You know, to get everything done. So I realised a long time ago that, you know, the new breed of singers and music producers and musicians are not really putting the time in. They don't know their craft as well as they should do. You know, they're not learning their chords. So when they're making melodies, they're just bodging it all up. And then you have to go in. When I come in, then I'm correcting stuff for them or fixing things up so that they're sounding proper, or they're getting other musicians who know their business to come in and do the work properly for them. You know, that we're noticing all that kind of stuff. And that is a big problem going forwards, because it changes the kind of songs that are being produced. The music has become a lot simpler. It's not as complicated as it used to be, because they don't have the knowledge to make a complicated song. They can't work with rags. A lot of them don't know rags. A lot of them don't know scales. You know, if you said play a minor scale for me, or play a major scale, or play a D7 for me, they wouldn't be able to do it. They wouldn't know what you're talking about. Or play Darbari rag for me, or play Asavari for me. You know, they wouldn't be able to do it. They wouldn't know what they're talking about. You know, but you know, so there is a big lack of education musically in that sense, and I think that's why music is so simple now. It's just a big beat and a simple tumbilik, and you know, and a very simple keyboard going in the background.
Tumbilik's rare now.
There's hardly any music to it, Ajkal. If you listen to this new stuff, there's hardly any music there. There's nothing there. There's like 4 or 5 sounds and that's it. Whereas in our days, we're layering stuff. You know, we've got drums, we've got dolak, tabla, dol, we've got bass guitar, rhythm guitar, lead guitar, we've got keyboards, we've got pads, we've got string section, we've got lead pieces. There's like, we'd go to studios, like they got 36 tracks on their desk, right? We'd end up using 50 tracks of music. That's before any singing starts. You know, that's how we used to layer stuff back in the day. Wow. Ajkal, you can make a song with just 4 tracks.
And you go back to when you started off the podcast, when you were talking about memorizing pieces, and those pieces are being they're not here anymore.
They're not here anymore. Now, let me give you an example, right? I just re-recorded an old track of mine, Nashadia Bhandwagon with DJ Vix, right? We did that track, and when we were working the song out, we were sitting talking about how we're going to format the song, the new version of it, right? Because Vix redid all the music and everything. Now he's the guy who knows about his music, right? And then I said, look, Vix, why don't we take some of the old music pieces from there? They're quite classic, you know, and you know, people in the industry recognize that stuff. And he said, Baji, he said, I don't think we should use any music in it, because he said the crowd Ajkal is such, like when the artist is singing and the beat is playing, right, it's fine. But when some music starts to play and there's no singing, he said they kind of get lost and they don't know what's going on, and they're looking around saying, where's the vocals gone? and that kind of thing. And I thought, you know, he's probably, to a certain extent, this, you know, he's a DJ and he's out there and he knows what's happening on the new.
But isn't that just the problem though? Isn't that just the problem where the music started catering the dance floor rather than the art, where you know where you're sitting back relaxing, you're hearing the pieces and you're playing it with your fingers in your head or whatever it is. But it depends on the motivation of what the track is. If you're going to make a track that you think it's only going to become popular if it's banging on a dance floor, then you've got no space for those pieces. If you're doing, and I think that's the value of the albums, because albums has made a really small comeback, but I don't believe they're real albums in a way, because an album has always been a theme and a story that goes through the whole of all of it. Now you're getting 10 songs just botched together. And there's one laying around here. There's one that I forgot about. Let's stick that on there. And then it's just a mashup. Whereas having that thematic theme through it, where you could actually put across, you know, you could dedicate some time and you can feel it through.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, if you ever listen to any of the older albums, there is a certain sound running through the whole album. There is a certain theme running through the whole album. Lyrically, vocally, everything seems to, one song seems to flow into another, and it's all connected. Like it's all, you know, it's like one universe. Whereas, like you say now, because of the latte, because of the Baya, you know, and it's all kind of, you got a Frankenstein kind of thing. You know?
Even the skits, you know, Utja Bobby in it. You know, I used to know that word for it, and they used to just flow with the album as well.
They used to flow with the album because there was a spirit running through that whole album, and that lifestyle and what we were all about. You know, those skits were all about our day-to-day kind of thing. You know, what we encountered during the day. You know, like some of the lads used to go and sign on earlier, so the Bobby skit came from there. You know, and some of the phone conversations I also had, boy in Manda and all this kind of business, you know, and all this kind of business, these conversations I used to have with people who wanted to book DCS. Those conversations went into those skits, you know, and it was, so it was all part of our life that we were putting into. We were putting our heart and soul and our lives into those albums. You know, like I told you, we'd spend 6 months in a studio just recording, scrap, record, scrap, record again, you know, and make until we got final 8 tracks or 6 tracks or whatever the album consisted of, and that was it.
You know, like how busy you were and doing it. Did you ever take any students on, or do you still do that now in terms of like carrying on the art of Sangeet, or do you think
you know,
I don't want to do anything?
You know, people are always. I get phone calls from guys asking me, "Shin, do you teach?" There was a time when I used to teach, right? But what happened was I ended up cancelling most of the lessons because I was always busy off doing something else. I'd be in the studio, or I'd be out gigging, or I wouldn't have time to, you know, to give them proper attention and do care. So I thought, I'm wasting their time. So I stopped teaching many years ago. But guys still phone me up, and I kind of put them on to other people that I know, like my good buddies who also learn from the same places I used to learn from, and they're competent teachers. But you know, so I stopped teaching many years ago. Really, you know, I'd love to start doing it again, but time allowing. You know, because when you teach somebody, you got to give them full attention. You know, you can't just I'll teach you this rag, go away. You know, and then come back after 2 weeks and I'll teach you another rag and go away. That's not what it's about. When you're teaching someone to sing, you got to spend some serious time with them and cultivate them, because it's not just about learning singing is not just about learning rags. It's about developing your voice. It's about your lifestyle. You know, it's about voice production. Voice culture. There's a lot that goes into it, you know, and most Indian teachers don't even teach all that stuff. Voice culture is something they don't really teach that much of in Indian classical music. It's all about rags, and it's all about learning the rags and the murkiyan, tirkita and stuff. But there's something called voice production, which they tend to teach you more of in Western music.
What is that then? What is that then? If you what is
voice production? More about looking after your voice, right? And how to produce your voice, how to sing, you know, high and low, without ruining your voice, without straining your voice, being able to do it properly. And like when we used to go on stage back in the day, we were like singing for 3 or 4 hours for one show, 3 or 4 hours at weddings, and you can only do that if you know what you're doing, if you know how to produce your voice. Otherwise, I've seen singers now, new singers, within like 15-20 minutes, they're gone. They're finished. The voices are done. They can't sing another song. And half of them ain't even singing live anyway, because they're singing over and miming a track, and still the voices are threatened. You know what I mean? That's all down to bad voice production and not knowing how to use your lungs, how to use your diaphragm, how to produce your voice. And this stuff has to be learnt.
And you're still doing your riyaz you're still doing it every day. Hour, minimum an hour, right?
Minimum of an hour every day, yeah. Half an hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening.
That is that is the love for the art. That's the dedication.
It is. It's love for the art. There's nothing I enjoy more than singing. I look forward to coming into my music room in the evening, spending my 1 hour here with my harmonium, just singing songs, singing ghazals, singing Bollywood, singing Punjabi, singing Bollywood, you know, singing rags and stuff, you know, and I just sit with my harmonium and I just love it. I just love doing it. You know, there's nothing else, because for me, it's like a meditation as well. I do my riyaz in the morning, and it's not like I'm not making a noise in the house because everyone's still asleep. 6:30 in the morning, everyone's still asleep, but I'm up and I'm doing my riyaz, and it's done in a beautiful, gentle way, because I'm waking my body up, I'm waking my voice up, I'm waking my soul up, I'm waking my mind up. This process of singing, it's like a yoga, it's like an act of yoga, because your breathing has to be active as well. So it's like I'm waking up my whole body, and it's like doing yoga in the morning, but it's got a very spiritual thing about it. But it has to be done.
I'm telling you now,
done in the right way.
There's a DVD to be made about this. You could you could sell it as a fitness.
You could do. I mean, on the internet now, there's loads of stuff all over the place. You can find stuff, on YouTube and everywhere.
There's a
potential
of a data.
But, it's a very serious thing.
Yeah.
And if you connect with it, there's nothing like it.
I want to ask you a couple of experience questions, to be honest, in terms of like your opinion. You've talked about a lot of the new blood and advice wise, sorry, not advice wise, but some of the things that you've done as an example. How did you, as a person, kind of navigate through the politics of the industry through various years and various eras? How did you do that?
Do you know what it is? I've always kind of stayed away from mixing too much with people in the industry. I've always kept away from the politics side of things. I'm a homey kind of guy, right? So I spend a lot of my time in my studio or at home, doing what I need to do, or I'm in the gym, or I'm just, my life centers around what I need to do for music to stay as a performing artist, right? So I don't get involved within the industry. Sometimes I'm called in, like if there's a big collaboration track going on, then someone will call me and like, we're doing this collaboration track, we want you to be part of it. Okay, I'll go in and I'll do what I need to do, and then I'm out of there. I will not get involved or embroiled into any kind of politics that's being used or being, or any group buzzy within the industry. I haven't got time for it, and I'm not interested in it. I'm here to make music, and I'm here to entertain people as an entertainer, and that's all I'm interested in. Not interested in politics.
Yeah, because one of the things that I kind of see and what I've kind of experienced is kind of it sounds a bit, a bit negative, and I'll kind of explain it. It was like the drug culture that's within there. Like I've seen it where, in terms of like the late 80s, it went through the pill section, and that's more, that's the creative side of it is kind of kicking in. Then it went into different bits, and then now you see like the drug game, especially like with like coke and all of these kind of things that are ruining, and especially singers if they've got like that vocal thing. I mean, the easiest answer is say, "Oh, don't do it," and that. But now there's so much money involved in terms of, you have to earn the right to stand on the stage. Now people are giving a stage, and then the money that's coming in there. How do you think, like, do you see people and you start like panic when you see the masses of money? I mean, some DJs earning up to £500,000 a year, and some, successful one, way more than that. And you just think of imagine the money that's involved at the time of the distraction. What kind of advice can you give at that time?
I mean, first of all, it's great to see DJs and artists that are doing well and earning a lot of money in this industry, because it's about time that the industry allowed people to make big bucks and make a living out of music. I mean, lucky artists like myself and other artists from my era who did really well managed to make a living out of it, right? But now shows are on another level, artists are on another level with social media and stuff, so that is great. But obviously, like I see where you're coming from. All the other stuff, all the other baggage that comes along with all that stuff, it's hard to control. It's been in the industry from before we even came into the industry. The drugs, the alcohol, the women, what you name it, it's all there. It's available. It's accessible. Alcohol is virtually everywhere. I shouldn't say this because I sing so many songs about alcohol, right? So many of my hit songs are about alcohol, but it's part of our culture. Alcohol I'm talking about. I'm not talking about drugs or anything like that. I'm talking about alcohol as a certain thing. It's part of not just Asian culture, it's world culture. What will I say? 50% of the planet, the population on the planet, probably drink. Yeah, probably 50% don't. But I would hazard a good guess that 50% of the population drink on this planet, right? Because it is an accepted social drug that we allow ourselves to indulge in, and some people can control it, right? Because its whole purpose is originally it was a medicinal thing. Daru was a medicinal thing, and we still call our medicines daru in India. There's a reason for that, right? Because alcohol was originally a medicinal thing for people, but then obviously people found that
everyone's going to misuse something, right?
Yeah. So we'll misuse it to a certain degree, but socially at weddings, birthdays, you name any kind of Asian social function, except for anything outside of a gurdwara, right? Obviously in religious circumstances, setting, we don't use it, but outside of those settings, it's there all the time and in every party, and we use it, and it's accepted, right? It has its, obviously it has its drawbacks. Some people can't control it, and it's ruined not only many a life, it's ruined many artists in front of my eyes, musicians, biggest singers in the world, people like, Manak, people like Binder Akia, these people. It's ruined their careers, completely. They went before their time, most of them.
Yeah.
But what can you do? It's part of this. It's part of our culture. It's part of the system, and it's not going to go anywhere. It's been there for yonks, for millennia. It ain't going anywhere. It's something we have to live with, but it's something we have to try and control. Every individual has to try and control, how they deal with that part of their life.
I remember seeing a singer, I won't say who, but older singer who was very famous, helped, set the scene. And then he goes, oh, he only sings better after the interval once he's had a whole bottle of Shavas. his throat opens up, then, he can sing a lot better.
That is a misconception. Nobody's throat opens up when they sing. All it does is it calms your nerves a little bit. It makes you into a tiger. Right. It doesn't make your voice better, but it makes you feel that you can sing better. Or, some people are very stage shy. The biggest singers in the world are stage shy, some of them. But they have to, they have a little drink top before they go on stage because it helps them to relax. Some of the biggest singers in the world, like people like Pavarotti, the singers, people, I can't remember his name, biggest classical singer from the early 1920s. What was his name, Yard? I should know his name. I've forgotten now. Oh, no. He'd have a drink before he goes on because it used to help calm him, bring his nerves down.
And this is where you're bringing in the little tot. This is where you're thinking about where the voice production bit comes in, doesn't it?
Yeah, the voice production. It doesn't actually help you. It does not help you. It's proven through science that alcohol will not help you sing better. It will make you think you're singing better.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah, there's many. I'll say that. Otherwise, people start digging out me singing at weddings. I ain't gonna do that. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of get a grasp of your interest in this. So, what's your favorite DCS album and favorite DCS song? You're gonna have to do it now.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna ask you.
Ask me that question.
Then after DCS,
because there's so many songs. There's just so many songs. Okay. I'll pick probably an obscure one. Probably something like Labande Utte Janatki. Because it's a song, it's a singer's song. You can enjoy singing that kind of song if you're that kind of a singer, and I'm that kind of a singer. And those are it's those kind of songs that I enjoy singing. The sad songs, the songs that have got meaning to them, the love songs that those songs with a bit of weight to them. Tehral,
Is that one that you could put forward? Is that one that you could put forward that you say, if you're a singer, sing this song, and then it would like
that's one that right, or one of that, those kind of songs basically.
Yeah, and the album then.
The album, I don't know. I really don't know. Probably it wasn't an album. It was an EP. that we recorded. It was Eat Rhythm. I would probably go for that because we had a lot of variety on that album with that track Nasha Diya Bandabo, that was a massive dance floor anthem to this day. And then we had a couple of other tracks, and we did like a cover of a Nusrat Qawwali, which was amazing. I really love that track. And then there was a track called Laike Khetan Wala Jatiye Saron Da Saag, which is a very rootsy Punjabi traditional kind of track. Yeah, so we covered a lot of variety in that, in just 4 tracks. Each track was from a different genre. You know, pop, Qawwali, the all out Desi track and all out dance floor track. You know, so we covered a lot of genres with that album.
I had 4 notes, 4 bullet points for this interview for all of this year, and one of them, the last point on there, it said Qawwali.
Qawwali.
I wanted to ask you about that, but it's wicked. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. You know, you did my job for you, and I love it. Non DCS favorite album and song. Is there always like a go-to kind of album where you think, I just need that, or a song?
I think my favorite is probably my favorite non-DCS track, right, is probably a track called Has Ho Gaya by Serge Sahota from the Sahotas. I just love that song, love the melody, I love the way Serge just sang it, and I love the music on it. And I was always a big fan, Sahota fan. I love the style of their music, you know. And we just did a show together last week. We did this thing called One Last Dance. There was a DCS Apna Sangeet, Sahotas, and Mangal Singh, and Priti Kaur. And Serge's set, I was on side of stage, and I danced all the way through his set. It was amazing. I loved it. Enjoyed it so much. I
remember seeing Sahota's DCS at ISIS in Nottingham club gig.
Okay.
And it was I think that's probably the last time we have seen a band that big, like together, and you know, it was. I'll always remember that because it was the sound.
Yeah, the Soldiers were a solid band as well. I love them. I love their sound. Fantastic.
So, what does the future hold for you now? Because I know there's a couple of things I need from you. There's loads of tracks that I know you've recorded out there. When are they ever going to see the light of day? In what kind of format will it be done? Could you do an acoustic album, please? An unplugged album?
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. What does it look like for you then?
Well, you know, this unplugged album you're talking about, I've been trying to do something for a long time. And then I get cold feet about it. Are people going to like unplugged album? All right, I'm going to do it. I'll do another track. And are they going to like this kind of stuff?
Why do you care? You've got 40 years worth of evidence to prove that whatever you've done has been decent. You've got gold discs behind you.
Yeah.
Why are you going to give a shit about somebody who has nothing to do? And your proper fans going, please do it. What harm can it do?
Yeah, true. You're quite right. Yeah, that's how I should be thinking. Yeah, and that's how. Well, it's all there. The masala is all there. It's ongoing. You know, and I've got the tracks there, and I'm working on them. Still need tweaking and stuff, but the acoustic album is there. I'm doing collaborations with other artists as well, so I'm working with other artists, and there's always new songs on the horizon. There's stuff I've got going with a couple of producers at the moment, because we don't do so much now as DCS, because that kind of live sound it doesn't really work anymore. You know, we did try it a while back, but it didn't really click. So we've got tracks on the go. I work with some of the lads from the band who help me on my recordings anyway. So we've got work coming out as DCS. There's stuff, like I said, with a couple of collaborations. And this acoustic album, I'll have to get that back on the frying pan.
Yeah, as soon as I come, I'm dragging you back on here. I'm going to harass you again.
I'd love to. love to be here.
So the last thing I do, I'll bring it to a close, because I've enjoyed this so much. This is called the Bhandwagon. So is there a bandwagon that you want to jump on or off? Or is there just something that you want to get off your chest? This is your space to kind of discuss.
Bhandwagon.
You don't have to follow it. It could be just something else that you're just thinking about. You just want to get off your chest. This is your space.
You know, we've talked about this before. We touched on this before earlier about the talent in this country, right? It would be a big shame if the scene in this country completely died out, right? I mean, at the moment, the whole scene is mainly being produced from India or Canada, right? Whereas it used to be the UK. The UK was the center of the Bhangra universe. Our generation was the generation that sold Bhangra back to India, right? And to the rest of the world. It became massive. It became a monster. It just took over everything, right? The British Bhangra sound that we produce in this country sold all over the world. And it's a shame to see that demising completely. When artists like me hang up our microphones, that's it. This country's done. I don't see any new artists emerging from this country. So my thing is to please, new artists out there, I want to encourage you to come forward, produce music in this country, you know, sing in this country, learn to sing, learn your craft, and come on, make some noise, make some music, get out there. You can do it. This country was leading the way. And it's done that for the last 30 years or so, 40 years or so. So please, we need to keep doing it. Come back, come up, emerge, come out of your cloakrooms, come out of the closet, come out of your bedrooms and bang it out there. Do it, man. I'll help you if you need help. I'll put you in touch with people. But come out there, please. Please.
Well, there's the message. There's the challenge. It's been laid down. It's documented from when it's going to be laid down. But honestly, from, you know, just want to say a big thank you to for coming on here, sharing your history. I think it's really important to have stories like these documented as on many podcasts and share it down, because once people have gone, they've gone. It's hard to kind of get it down and narrate this oral history, you know, once more.
Yeah, thank you very much for doing this. You know, it's a great service you're doing for the Bhangra industry, you know, and for people, you know, like you say, they can hear back and
I got one picture.
My angle on things.
Well, I got one picture where I was at Samson's. You were doing a Hampstead Hall gig, and it was one of my first doors. I was there. I had that at my university picture. I still got it. I was like,
all right.
Honestly, great times with, like, the influence that you've had on other people is something that I don't think you'll probably ever get to hear about. You know, where you would probably hear the same comments. Oh yeah, you did, but you're like a soundtrack for people's for their lives. That you've done parents' weddings, then the kids' weddings, and now you're doing first dances and all the.
It's at that point now. Yeah, I've been in the industry so long now. I did the parents, now I'm doing the children. Same weddings, yeah. Or uncle, we want to book you because you did my dad's wedding as well, so I want to book you for mine as well. So, all right, okay.
So you ain't getting no family discount, mate. Thank you, Zin. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you.